Welcome to our weekly Friday Talk and Tour series when we share the opportunity to visit the studios of our wonderful artists and hear about their works and inspiration. These visits are brought to you by the Duncan McClellan Gallery and the DMG School Project of St. Petersburg, Florida. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, everyone. So glad to have all of you here. We're very honored to have you, and we're very honored to have Naoko Takenouchi, an amazing artist that I really think you'll enjoy hearing from her today. And more than anything, I'm very grateful that you come to join us, and I hope you do every week. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mary. If you'll take it away.
Thanks, Duncan. We're so happy to have Naoko join us today. She's a very special artist based in Vancouver, British Columbia, and her work is very popular in the gallery and all around the country and the world. She has created some wonderful series of works, which we'll see, and some wonderful installations. And we're going to start with a little presentation that Naoko has put together. It's going to start with her history, where she lives. You'll see her inspiration, part of her process. So Naoko, we're very, very honored to have you, and thanks everyone for joining us.
Okay, thank you very much for joining me today. I am very grateful to have an opportunity to talk about my work and show my studio space. And I am so lucky to be with Duncan McClellan Gallery. They are such a beautiful gallery and it's amazing people. Now I am sitting in my studio, which my husband built me about 20 years ago. And the skylights brings in a lot of natural light and give me a peaceful and creative environment here. Unfortunately, my husband passed away 5 years ago. But everything in this property, especially this studio, is filled with his love and care, I think. Yeah, I think I will start slideshow. Okay, well, this is Vancouver, where I live and where I work. And such a beautiful city surrounded by ocean and mountains. I left Japan and came to Vancouver in 1989. Since then, this is my home and where I work. And this is my front yard. As you can see, I love flowers and growing plants. Okay, next. This is my backyard, and back of the building is my studio. Okay. And this is greenhouse, and I love grow vegetables. And every year I grow tomatoes and peppers and strawberries on the next slide. And I have a lot of tomatoes on the next slide. I have a lot of tomatoes right now to harvest. So I spend a lot of time growing plants. Okay, next. And this is my partner, Mark. And he is a very patient and very kind person. He helped me getting through my most difficult time in my life. Okay, next. Yeah, you can go next. Oh, okay. This is my other part of my family. I have 4 cats, and this is Kato and Azul. And yeah, you can go next slide. This is when they were kittens. I found them in my backyard about 2 years ago, and I ended up keeping all of them. They were so cute, sweet. Okay. Okay, so this is my drawings. And I'm going to talk about little bit about my inspirations and creative process. I use drawings for pulling out my emotions and certain moods onto a paper and putting it into a visual format. I often use watercolor and black ink. Okay. Next.
Naoko, did you start as a painter, or have you always worked in glass? Do you have a history as a painter?
Before I started my glass career or glass, I learned glass in my university in Japan. So before that, I was drawing and painting all the time, and I just loved paintings and drawings. So yeah, I do have a lot of background for that.
Thank you.
Okay. Nature gives me a lot of inspirations. I love being in nature and feeling everything with my senses. Okay. And this is a volcano in northern BC. And the bottom one is a trip to glacier. And I'm standing edge of the crevice. It's very powerful. Okay. I use natural forms as a visual language. Birds and spirals and wings are very often used in my work. But overall, my work always has been reflection of my personal life experience. It is a navigation of my path. We process things intellectually, but I think we need to process it physically and emotionally to fully understand the experience. And I find creating artwork is a wonderful and magical way to process my life and share it with others. So this is Atlin Lake and a school. In 1995, I took 3 weeks workshop called Creative Process in Atlin, BC. The school is surrounded by nature and very inspiring environment for me. At that time, I was dealing with my own identity issue. After a few years leaving Japan, I felt disconnected from my own culture and didn't know where I belong. Okay, and next. So this is the sculpture I made there. Up there, I didn't have option to make glass. So I kind of had to make something out of whatever I could find there, or I can do drawings or paintings. So I choose to make a three-dimensional sculpture, and it's quite large. When I arrived at the workshop, I wasn't aware about what I was working on. But I created this sculpture and noticed something very interesting happened to me. Okay, next slide. And the sculpture was composed by 3 elements: white sail, charcoal wooden sphere, which is this one, and underground sound system. And they were all connected as a one piece.
And what was the underground sound system made of?
I dug a big hole, as you can see. And it took me three days to dig this big hole. And I hang scrap metals to make kind of like a deep temple bell noise. Mm-hmm. So the bell is connected to the sail above the sphere, and when the wind blows, the sail is pulled, and it pulls the string attached to the bell under the ground, and you can hear the very deep noise from almost nowhere.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So this is me digging 3 days of labor, digging a big hole. And after I made this sculpture, I realized that this was my self-portrait. And wooden sphere, underground bell part represents my spirit. And wooden sphere is old culture. And the sail above is myself in a new situation. And after that, the identity crisis was resolved. And it didn't matter where I belong anymore. So that was quite interesting process for me.
Very powerful. One of our guests says that it's also a wonderful way to give the earth a voice too.
Yes, thank you. Okay, next slide. And walking is my other inspiration. I love walking, and it is a meditation to me. Being in touch, being in a moment, getting in touch with myself and surrounding energies. So these shots are, I started to walk Camino de Santiago. I don't know if you're familiar with, but it's a Christian pilgrimage path in medieval time, established in medieval time, and you walk through northern Spain. It's about 900 kilometers walk, and it's such a beautiful spiritual walk. So I get a lot of inspiration from doing that too. Okay, that's it.
So where is this, Naoko?
Oh, this is a studio. This is a studio I work in. I use a hot shop, and it's in Vancouver, and it is a co-op glass studio. And I'm a member of the studio, and whenever I need to use hot shop, I use. And this is a process of making one of a piece called Flight. And I was just applying white powder onto the surface of the glass and blowing a little bit. And then after that, I apply copper foil. It's just fused onto the glass with the heat, and which brings a beautiful copper blue color, and also the nice texture of the foil. And this is the finish blowing process. And after this, I do a lot of cold work, which I can show you later. Okay, so now, yes.
Yeah, this is some historical work, correct?
Yes, this is some historical work. And back in 1987, I graduated from Tama Art University in Tokyo, and I took glass there. And this is my very old early work called the Unagi series. Unagi is a Japanese word for evening calm. Okay. This is called Dream Lovers. And after I graduated the university, I worked in a studio in northern Japan and had an opportunity to work with Swedish artists, where I got a strong influence in my early work. And this is Dreamfish. And some of the Swedish artists introduced me sandblasting techniques. And this is Mermaid. When I blow the form, I layer 2 colors of the glass, so the vessel has layers of colors lined inside. Then I sandblast inside of the vessel to create this images.
And this is a technique that you still use, even though the work has changed quite a bit.
Yes, I still use a lot of similar technique, same technique, sometimes on the outside of the vessel, and this is inside of the vessel. Yeah, so this is basically same technique applied on outside. And this piece is called Ancient Birds, and it is Twig Vessel series. In 1993, after I received landed immigrant status here in Canada, I started to rediscover and expressing my Japanese heritage. And the metal twig going through the neck of the bottle is, it is forged metal. And this is another one of a twig-based series. Okay, yeah, and this is called Inner Landscape. Yeah, actually this piece, when I blow the piece, I apply the base color, and then I cover the surface with the black powder glass. And on top of that, I put silver foil from Japan, which is a bit thicker than silver leaf. Applied the silver foil on the front and back. And then after the piece is cooled, I again sandblast the images. And by carving different layers, I get different colors. The base color, in this case, it's orange or black or very shaded black through silver and then silver. So yeah, I get very delicate images with that. Okay, and this is called Goldfish, and this one I use gold leaf and wooden handle on top. And I made the metal bracket to attach to the glass as well. And I start making more sculpture piece. This is called Horn of Life. And this one is called Poetry Series. And I think I started making this in end of 1990 or the year 2000, something like that. I carved Japanese poem in the front of the vessel in the window, and you can see through the related images on the back of the vessel. And this is called For the Birds.
We have a question about the previous piece, wondering what the poem said. Do you remember?
It says something like, life is a very lonely sailing. And sometimes you take break on the driftwood.
Very nice.
Okay.
Thank you.
And this piece is called Grace, and it's basically the same thing, but the piece is bolted on the metal plate underneath the gravel. And this is hanging piece. It's called Trace. And this is called Safe Place. And this is a spirit vessel. This series is inspired by a story I heard from my grandmother. It was about my ancestor's story. She was saying in old time, ancient time, I guess, actually her family was from samurai family, and she could track back quite a bit of her family history. And she knew a lot of family stories, and I was always interested in listening to her about it. And she said in old time, people didn't know how to read or write, most of the people, and they had a person called kataribe, which is a next piece of the slide. And kataribe is a person who, they don't know how to write, but they can talk about all the history of the ancestry stuff, and that's how they pass the information on to the next generations. So this is an exhibition called Dialogue, and I received a grant from the government and created a body of work in 2001. The show was called Dialogue, and it was about my mother-in-law's life. She was born and raised in London, England. After the war, she came to Canada as a war bride. She was very intelligent and talented lady, but she didn't fit in a small town, Alberta. Her life was very many struggles, and as an immigrant, I had a lot of empathy for her. When she passed away in 1998, I felt strongly that I need to express something for her through my work. So that's this piece is called Locus. And in the show, there were 9 pieces in the show, and each pieces were accompanied with poem. And the show was navigated as a dialogue between her and me. And this is detail shot, and this is about her spirit. After the life, her spirit is keep growing and filling up her vessel. And this piece is called Clamor of the Soul. And this is about her struggle and pain about not being able to communicate with people around her. And piece is sitting on the stack of paper, and it's sitting on the burnt spot. The glass head is sitting on the burnt spot, which express the pain. And this is masks, and it's talking about we are all wearing masks to confront the society, but behind the mask we have a very deep hidden emotion in behind. And this piece is called Navigation. I use a creative expression to navigate myself, my life, and I wish I could share that with her in her early life to make it a lot easier for her. And this piece is called White Heron, and I'm going to read the poem to go with. Every piece has a poem, but this one I'm going to read. You are a pure white heron, strikingly elegant and noble. You have beautiful wings with great power, but you never flew across the open sky. Perhaps you kept your pure whiteness by not flying. So that was the show, and yeah, that's okay.
Naoko, where was that exhibit and when?
The exhibition was in Vancouver, in Canadian Craft Museum, and it was exhibited summer of 2001.
So what happened to those, when you create an exhibit like that, do you disperse the pieces or do you try to bring that installation as a whole somewhere else?
Actually, I have some of the large pieces, which was very hard to sell, obviously. So I still have it in my studio, and some components I use as installation in other pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of our guests asked if you could talk a little bit about how traditional Japanese culture has affected the different series of works. I mean, I know at some point we've talked about how you kind of explored your culture through your work, and both from Japan and now in Canada. So do you feel that it still has a big influence on you?
Yes, I think it does. Because after I left Japan, I really realized I am Japanese and I grew up in Japan. So it's something in me. I just, it's myself. So I have a lot of Japanese influence and it comes out in my work, I think.
And you don't try to you're okay. So I guess the guest was asking, do you feel comfortable keeping that, or are you trying to move on and change that in any way?
I am very comfortable keeping it, and I think now it's becoming, well, it is Japanese influence, but it's more becoming my own expression.
Sure.
And I am Japanese, so it's part of it. And I think it's very interesting to find out through my work different aspects of myself, which sometimes Japanese, sometimes not Japanese, and it's all myself. So yeah, you're very comfortable with it.
Well, it comes out beautifully.
Thank you. I
And
don't
so,
know if I answered the question.
well, and this is a new series, or a series that came after your installation, correct?
Yes, this is a series. Well, I think around same time, some things overlaps. When I make pieces, some new pieces come out. Still, I'm making old pieces, so it overlaps. But yeah, this one is started around 2009. And it's called Fragment of Dream, and this is number 5. And I have some of the pieces in studio right now, and it's quite large piece. So it's in 2 parts, the bottom sphere part and the twig part, glass branch part comes off, and it screws into the piece. And it's mostly shipping purpose. And this series is about a fine balance in nature.
And you're using this silver leaf also on those pieces?
Yes, I do, yeah. Mm-hmm. And this one is actually copper leaf, the color you can get from copper. It's a beautiful blue. And this piece is called Earth, Air, and Sea. And this is number 1. And yeah, this is a same series. And yeah, sometimes I use different motif like birds and spirals and yeah, a lot of wings.
And we had one of these pieces in the gallery, and one of our guests is the happy owner of it.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, and this piece is called Flight Number 5. And before you saw the video of blowing glass, actually I was making the form for this piece. And I'm going to talk about the sandblasting process of this piece. And this is sandblaster in my studio. And this is very important equipment for me. And I use everything for my sandblasting for all the work I do. And it's actually, it's very dusty, so I have to wear a mask. And not very comfortable, but that's what I do. Okay, so this is when I finished blowing, it came out like this, and that beautiful blue color is from copper leaf, and also the beautiful pattern I find. And first I have to cut the top of the vessel in angle and grind and polish. I have to do this first because I'm adding a lot of stress on the glass by sandblasting. So sometimes grinding and polishing after the sandblasting is a little bit nerve-wracking.
And we can see the interior color there too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the interior color is a beautiful aqua blue for this case. And after this, I start masking, drawing the design on the piece with the magic marker and using Japanese vinyl tape to mask entire piece. And I start cutting with the X-Acto knife or each lines. And some of the area I have to carve deeply to cut out the form. So next one. Yeah, you see I lined with a different masking material called anchor resist, which is a much stronger and it stand up for the pressure of the sandblasting. And I carve out with the sandblaster, next slide, all the lines to cut out a section of the vessel. Okay, you can go next to create this spiral form. And after I cut out everything, I have to mask the inside interior of the vessel. And also I start peeling off some of the details of on the surface. And I start carving in the different layers to get different colors and textures. Okay, next one. Yeah, so I'm masking inside here. And I also draw some lines and images inside and sandblast. Okay, so this is finished sandblasting all the parts and taking off the masking on the next slide. And there you go. It's a beautiful color spiral form.
Wow. And
yeah, sometimes this cutting out process, because I put a lot of pressure on the glass, I lose the piece. Piece just cracks, or yeah, it's heartbreaking after all these hours putting into masking and sandblasting, and then it just goes. But that's glass, so I have to live with it. And after that, this is the stand part. I have to cast resin to make a dome to hold up the piece. And yeah, I cast resin in a form and take it out and install on a metal stand on top, and the piece will sit on it nicely. Okay.
Naoko, we have a question. those finely drawn figures, the spirals and arrows, are those etched also? Are they sandblasted, or do you use a different type of tool?
They are sandblasted. Yeah, so I have to mask very, very fine lines and draw the spirals. And yeah, it takes a lot of practice, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
I have been doing a long time. So, and also when I sandblast, I have to be very careful sandblasting, not too high pressure. I can adjust pressure on my sandblaster. So when I carve out some of the pieces, I use really high pressure, like something like 60 pounds. But when I start doing the delicate lines and feathers, I will drop the pressure to sometimes 10 or 5.
I see. And we have a guest asking, what's the approximate size of that spiral? What's the approximate height? I guess just a rough. I think we have it somewhere else in the presentation, but
Yeah, well, I think I'm not very good with inches. I don't know if you can convert something like 40 to 50 centimeter.
okay, I will convert that.
Yeah, so that's the glass part of the sculpture, and if it's sit on the stand, it's you can add another maybe 15 centimeter.
So our Canadian guest who owns a piece of yours says that that is 15 inches.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Or so. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is beautiful.
Yeah, this yeah, it was sold to some nice gentleman in Toronto, Canadian person, and actually he said he's going to move to Florida and he's going to take it there with him.
You'll
Anyway,
have to come back.
yeah, so these pieces are called Winged Aspirations. And I took a workshop with Scott Benefield in 2014 and learned how to work with cane and marinis. So I started making these pieces. And I find it's very interesting to see as I blow and stretch glass, you can see because the marini stretches in a certain way and blow up. So I can really see how the glass moves as I blow and form.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I think you have this piece in the gallery.
We do.
Yeah, I added some of rust pigment. It's in paint form, and you can apply rust solution afterwards to make beautiful rust color to just accent the and movement of the feathers. Okay, and yeah, this is same thing with the rust pigment. I used a little bit larger section, and it looks like almost looks like a seed pod or leaves or something very organic.
And one of our guests is asking, is this paint fired? It's not paint, it's a metal powder, correct?
Yeah, it is metal powder, but it's in a paint form.
Okay.
So you can paint it on with brush.
Okay.
And after you paint everything on, I apply rust solution. It's a solution, and apply several times to rust the paint, the metal powder. And so that's how I get this rust color and texture. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is some kind of a commission I do every year for the last maybe over 10 years. And it's commissioned with the Canadian government. And it's award for Governor General's Award for people who has been very supportive to artists, for patrons, I guess. And they give me their recipients' information bio beforehand, and I make unique individual piece according to what they are interested in and what's their passion. So it's kind of a fun project for me.
Sure.
Okay, so this is show called Spirit Messenger. And I'm sorry, my note is kind of mixed up. Yeah, this show was in 2018, and the show was dedicated to my husband, Lawrence. I lost a huge part of my life by losing him, and I still don't know how to reconstruct my life even today. But this is my way to understand and process the loss. And I am slowly moving on forward. Yeah, so this is the show. And this piece is called Celestial Symphony. And it's an installation piece. And it's about his spirit in the universe. And there's a piece underneath. It's a big bowl, big bowl of water. Actually, it's a cast glass, and the magnolia flower petals on it. And this piece is called Precious Moments. And I actually traced my hand, my own hand, onto the glass, and I sandblasted from the underneath of the piece. And heart is sitting on my hand. I think this can be my husband's spirit or precious moment we had. Okay, and this piece is called Spirit Messenger. And I also created the textile work in the background. I dyed the fabric in blue and cutting and taking out each horizontal threads one by one to create this ego image. And it was very labor intensive, but also very calming process. And this piece is installation. Actually, it was, I think you sold it at the gallery.
We were so honored to have it and so honored to find a home for it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Cool. Yes.
Yeah, it's always nice to find nice home for my pieces. It's almost like my children, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
so this is me, I guess. Yeah, it's an old photograph. Yeah.
Well, that was really, really wonderful. You know, such a sensitive and eloquent presentation of your work, and to see your journey and how you express yourself through the work. And you know, it's really always, I think all artists try to do that, but your voice was so clear as we saw the pieces.
Oh, thank you.
Really beautiful. And does anyone have any further questions for Naoko? We also have some other work that we'd like to show you, but this is a great time to ask any questions or make comments. Everyone is speechless.
Well, I hope you enjoyed.
Oh, very much. So we do have a series of works just to show. So just give us a moment and we'll bring it up for you. And again, if you'd like to say anything about these pieces, feel free. And if anyone has any questions also, we see some details of the work as well as the piece here. And this is a new piece, correct? That you have just sent to the gallery.
Yes, this is yeah, newest piece, and yeah, this is piece number 1 for this series, and I do like to explore a little bit more about it. And yeah.
Sure. We love the colors on this piece. It's unusual.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's a rust pigment as well.
Okay.
And this piece is in my studio.
So someone asked how the top is screwed on to the bottom. Does it screw or just slip down over the over a collar?
I have it is part of the plumbing fitting. It's the screw part and screwing part, and the bottom sphere part. I glued the one part to screw, and the twig piece, the big branch part, also has underneath it has maybe something like 5 centimeter piece sticking out, glass piece, and I glued the screw part onto it, so it will screw into it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And this beautiful texture on the leaf, that happens naturally when you pick it up onto the hot glass? You know, the crackling?
Yeah, cracking particularly when I pick up the silver or the foil and I blow the glass a little bit, and then it expands, the glass expands and the metal foil start cracking to expand.
Okay. One of our guests says that the shapes often look simple, but the designs are not simple. In fact, the designs are very eloquent, very elegant, I should say.
Thank you.
And these are all available in your studio, correct?
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Mm-hmm.
And these prices are in Canadian dollars or American dollars?
It is US dollars.
US dollars, okay. And if anyone would be interested in these pieces, just contact the gallery and we'll make sure that Naoko gets them to you. These are beautiful. So these are silver leaf, and then you've sandblasted around the design?
Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right, yeah.
That is so elegant.
Yeah, these are gold leaf. I put it on the glass after the piece has blown.
And the interior element just sits inside, it's not attached, it's just sitting inside?
Yeah, the little snail, that one is just sitting on it, so you can take it out.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Beautiful work. Absolutely gorgeous. Thank you.
Very much.
Sure. Well, as soon as you can, I know that Duncan would love to bring you out to the gallery and maybe one of these amazing installations that you have put together an exhibit. It would be really wonderful.
Yeah,
We would love to have you back, Naoko.
I love to go back.
Be great.
I enjoyed so much. Yeah, your place is so welcoming, and it's beautiful, just wonderful. Yeah, nice people. I really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you, Naoko. What a pleasure as always. We hope you'll join us next week, everyone. And thanks for joining us on our Friday afternoon.
Thank
Thanks
you very
again.
much.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right.